sustained life-threatening injuries. It was also clear to first responders that she had been the victim of a violent SA. After performing CPR for several minutes, they loaded her into an ambulance and headed to the nearest hospital. Although every possible measure was utilised to save her life, the little girl was pronounced dead within an hour of the initial call. Realising that they had homicide on their hands, detectives set to work gathering as much information as they could about the victim. And they interviewed witnesses, one of them a man named Felix. I don't know how you pronounce his last name, I apologise. Identified the girl as his daughter Zoey. According to Felix, who worked at the gas station where Zoey was found, his estranged spouse, Holly Jo Felix, kicked Zoey and her 19-year-old half-sister out of their house 2 weeks earlier. With no place to go and little money to live on, the trio had been sleeping in the nearby woods. It's insane to me. I don't know whether they kicked the dad out or just the kids. Her and her sister, I'm not sure, but like, either way, what the frick? Like, wow, that's awful. During a sit-down interview with Zoe's father, detectives learned that he had a habit of leaving her in the care of 25-year-old Miguel Cherry while he worked. A trusted friend who had been staying with the family in recent weeks, Cherry too had been sent back in when Holly allegedly ordered everyone off the premises in September. A background check on Cherry showed that he had a minor criminal history in Texas. The relatively benign list of offences consisted mainly of trespassing charges related to vagrancy. Even though he had never shown her for violence, investigators had a gut feeling that Zoe's babysitter, who was among the last people to see her alive, would prove to be a key player in the case. On October the 5th, 3 days after Zoey was discovered, barely clinging to life, Miguel Cherry was questioned by authorities. While the content of the interrogation has not been disclosed, it resulted in him being charged with capital murder, first-degree murder and rape. He is currently being held on a $2 million bond. Given the age of the victim, if court-appointed psychologists determine that he is competent to stand trial, Cherry will likely face the death penalty if convicted. All the agencies involved in the ongoing investigation are wisely keeping their cards close to their chests. It has been disclosed that they have not ruled out the possibility that the accused may have had an as yet unnamed accomplice, owing to the possibility that his life may soon hang in the balance. Representatives from the Kansas Death Penalty Defense Unit have confirmed that they will be advocating on Cherry's behalf. This is despite the heinous nature of the crimes with which he is accused. While the autopsy results have not been made public, what is known is that Zoe's injuries were so severe that no amount of medical intervention could have saved her, which just shows how brutal this attack was on this poor girl. The reports that have been released indicate that she had died at the hands of another, meaning that no weapons were used in the attack that ended the preschooler's life. So this was made by someone's bare hands, no weapons. Standing only 4 foot tall and tipping the scales at 50 pounds on her best day, Zoey had been no physical match for her killer. Coward of the worst kind, the perpetrator Holly's rage in this specific incident. Around the same time, Holly was also charged with driving under the influence with a child in the car. So again, she doesn't care about it. It's just she has no motherly, anything motherly about her. She doesn't deserve to be a mother. The fact that, again, she's doing another thing that's endangering her own child by driving under the influence with her daughter in the car. It's 18 months probation for her crimes. She was still under supervision when her daughter was brutalised and murdered after being forced to take up residence in a tent in the woods with her half-sister, her father and her alleged killer, Miguel Cherry. Saying Cherry is in the cherries, like cherries, not Jerry is a name. An individual who seems to be solely lacking in impulse control. Holly was convicted of possession of a stolen weapon and domestic battery while living in Nevada in the years leading up to the move to Kansas. If the allegation that Holly evicted her family from their home proves true, her reasons for taking such drastic measures are a mystery. While no one related to the case has publicly addressed the issue, her actions may have had something to do with the fact that the Department for Children and Families had been called to the residence several times in recent months after being contacted by neighbours who were concerned for Zoey's well-being. So even her neighbours are clearly aware of how unfit she is as a mother, and even they care more about this little girl's well-being than her mum's. One of the major complaints involved the living conditions inside the home. Among other things, the dwelling lacked electricity and running water, which is insane because especially when it comes to water, is a given here. I know in not every country they don't have the luxury of getting water like we do, and we're very fortunate to be able to have water. But for this, that's insane how she doesn't even have access to water. A little girl, as a mum, she's not even caring about bloody hydrating a child, and also no electricity, so it means no warmth, no food can't be cooked. Those who had the misfortune of seeing the interior firsthand claim that the place wasn't fit for man or beast. That just goes to show how even it wasn't even fit for an animal, for a beast. So how could it be fit for a child? Stench of feces, both animal and human, supposedly hung in the air, making staying indoors for long nearly impossible. Though Holly hasn't spoken publicly about the rumours and innuendo surrounding the case, those close to her insist that she was not Zoey's custodial parent. Therefore, had no legal obligation to provide housing. If this turns out to be factual, it might actually explain why the 5-year-old lived with her father instead of remaining in the house. Being said, there's no excuse for a parent to allow their child to sleep in the woods amidst an odd assortment of relatives, acquaintances of questionable character, and total strangers. Taking of her life sheltering in the woods. The neighbours who had